Judges, please now turn your attention to the screen as we play the video.
Entrepreneurs are the drivers of progress, innovation, and sustainable change.
They are the backbone of the Canadian economy. In fact, small businesses employ 69.9% of our total private labor force.
Despite Toronto having one of the best startup ecosystems in the world, our changemakers are looking to others for support, and even looking to other cities due to challenging barriers to entry.
We see the talents of Canadian entrepreneurs firsthand, who often have a hard time finding the resources they need to scale their businesses to reach its full potential.
Toronto is a city popularized by its many diverse communities. With a wide demographic of people, Enactus Ryerson sees the potential our city has and is actively working towards creating access to the necessary resources, education, and opportunities.
As such an important part of the Canadian economy, we understand the importance of supporting our entrepreneurs. Enactus Ryerson has created an ecosystem to foster this support through increased access to education, funding, and mentorship.
Financial literacy is a key part of education that is often overlooked. We surveyed 1,500 Ryerson students and 64% reported that they don't know how to budget their monthly expenses, how to file their taxes, and how to start investing.
In 2018, Project BITS was created to help these students start a healthy financial lifestyle by hosting workshops on budgeting, investing, taxation, and savings. Since then, we realized while teaching the fundamentals of financial literacy is important, we wanted to do more.
This year, we partnered with the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education and the National Bank of Canada to host 22 workshops for students at Ryerson, Brock, and Vanier University. In 2020, we expanded our curriculum to include advanced investment workshops such as cryptocurrency, advanced trading, and providing economic updates.
We established an 8-week bootcamp that covers basic and advanced financial literacy. Individuals who attended 6 of 8 workshops received a LinkedIn certification that could be added to their resume.
Our team conducts pre- and post-workshop quizzes and surveys to test what students learn, as well as gain feedback. Our business model focuses on taking the feedback we receive and revising our curriculum based on the needs of our students.
A total of 938 workshop participants reported that they were able to increase their savings by an average of $40 a month and reduce their debt by $100. BITS attendees have saved over $27,000 through our financial education and have reduced their debt by an estimated $80,000.
We help students by establishing a foundation of financial literacy to prepare them for their financial journey. Project BITS' mission is to help students develop a lifetime of good habits to empower them for their future.
At Ryerson, we have many ambitious and inspired students who want to take hold of their future through creating a startup. For over 15 years, we've been an integral part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem at Ryerson through Project Start Me Up. SMU is broken down into 3 initiatives: Startup School, New Venture Competition, and Youth Entrepreneurship Opportunities.
Education is a key pillar to success. Through Startup School, we work with Ryerson professors to educate students on basic business principles and entrepreneurship, to give them the necessary tools to start their own businesses. Through our weekly workshops, we teach students topics such as the Lean Business Canvas, customer discovery, and how to raise funding for their venture. This year, we hosted a total of 17 workshops and had over 1,400 attendees.
Once students have learned the fundamentals of entrepreneurship and have started working on their business, the next step is to secure the funding they need. Every year, we host our New Venture competition in collaboration with the Slate Family Foundation, where we award $25,000 to one male and female-led venture.
Students have the opportunity to present their business to our panel of industry judges and secure the funding they need to work on their startup full-time. On April 8th, we held this year's New Venture competition. With over 20 applicants, we narrowed it down to 6 finalists. Ultimately, 2 businesses were awarded $25,000 each: Local Student and UCAST.
On behalf of everybody at Local Student, I just wanted to express my gratitude for being able to take part in the Slate New Venture competition. Because being part of a community where you're surrounded by other people who just want to create positive change in the world was truly inspiring, and it was honestly fun. And then on top of that, The moral support and the funding we received is helping us create another 5,000 jobs for students this summer. So again, we wanted to thank you for this amazing opportunity.
Last summer, we realized that while educating Ryerson students was successful, we felt we could do more and wanted to expand our audience to create more impact. After our initial needs assessment, we identified an opportunity to bring entrepreneurship to high school students, a topic that many of these students didn't have experience with but showed interest in.
Through Enactus' network, we were introduced to the Scarborough Center for Healthy Communities, began our partnership, and established our newest initiative, YEO. YEO is a youth entrepreneurship program that runs in cohorts of 12 weeks. This initiative consists of weekly workshops, partnering high school students with mentors from Enactus Ryerson, and hosting a pitch competition to award seed funding for their venture. We quickly realized how important mentorship is to a young entrepreneur, and that a great mentor can help a mentee grow much more than any workshop. Our mentors are highly experienced with entrepreneurship through their extensive involvement with Enactus or their own ventures.
Aside from mentorship and personal skills development, we educate students on prioritizing mental well-being. Through our curriculum, we teach students how to manage their stress, practice mindfulness, and the impact this has on successfully running a business, along with other aspects of their lives.
In under a year, YEO has supported youth in creating over 30 businesses. At the core of each of those businesses is students who have been exposed to entrepreneurship as a viable career path and have been given the tools and foundation to be successful throughout their professional lives.
Starting the week of April 26th, we began our third cohort, where we are taking what we've previously learned to provide the best program possible to our 30 new students. At the end of our 12-week program, we host a youth venture competition, where we give students the opportunity to pitch to industry judges and raise money. To date, we have awarded over $13,000 in seed funding to our mentees.
Our most recent winner of our youth venture competition was Jessica, with her business Your Beatific Jewelry.
I've always been passionate about sustainability, and I've always been interested in reading about it and how, I've had a special focus on how businesses can be more sustainable. I've had an amazing mentor to help guide me for the process of starting my business, and I've also had great resources and really great materials given to me to help the process go as smooth as possible.
Just like Jessica and her business, Your Beatific Jewelry, sustainability is key to each of our projects. Greenology strives to innovate existing packaging methods while minimizing our impact on the planet, with the ultimate goal of creating sustainable, positive impact.
We spoke with Second Harvest, Canada's largest food rescue organization, and realized potatoes were one of the most frequently wasted crops. In fact, 2.4 million potatoes are wasted in Canada every day. We wanted to find a use for this perfectly edible food going into landfills. Our team experimented with potato starch, and we were able to create a durable polymer comparable to single-use plastics. With the remainder of the potatoes, we plan on creating a line of low-cost nutritious meals. By doing so, the entirety of the potato will be used, and in turn, zero waste is produced.
To ensure our recipe for this polymer is replicable, we tested it out with 126 students in Ryerson's organic chemistry course this past semester. By implementing our recipe into the course, 5 Ryerson students were given the paid opportunity to be the TA advisors for the semester. The polymer can be created using easily accessible materials that are both affordable and low-tech. In fact, we made our prototypes from our own kitchens. Once permitted, our team will be conducting experiments on our polymer in a lab setting, which will help us finalize our recipe and work on scaling up our product.
During the research and development phase, we also wanted to educate the community on the importance of environmental sustainability, food waste, and food insecurity. We need to change our mindset to become more environmentally conscious and minimize the impact on our planet.
Our goal with Greenology is to divert as many rescued potatoes from landfills as possible. With roughly 876 million potatoes being wasted every year, our mission is to divert at least 1% of the wasted potatoes during our first stage of implementation. 1% may not seem like a lot, But this is 8 million potatoes being diverted into something more environmentally friendly and sustainable. This is a huge step towards reshaping our relationship with single-use plastics. It's not only the ideas that make entrepreneurship great, it's the people behind them. At Enactus Ryerson, we impact people by providing them with the confidence, education, and resources they need to be successful in their entrepreneurial endeavors.
Over the last year, our team of 60 diverse change makers have dedicated over 10,000 hours empowering individuals to create entrepreneurial change.
Project Bits empowers students to take full control of their financial future. To date, we've helped students save $27,000 and reduce their debt by $80,000.
Startup School has connected over 1,400 students to the resources and industry knowledge they need to scale their businesses.
New Venture Competition awarded 2 students $50,000 to work on their businesses full-time.
YEO provides students with the mentorship, education, and funding they need to create a business and pursue entrepreneurship as a viable career path. We've created over 70 part-time jobs, and our mentees have generated over $3,500 in revenue.
Our newest project, Greenology, is working towards implementing sustainable practices to reduce food waste and the use of single-use plastics.
Education is a key pillar to success. By connecting our students with mentors and resources, we provide them with the opportunities they need to make the change they seek.
Entrepreneurs are the drivers of progress, innovation, and sustainable change.
We represent the innovative nature of our country by empowering our students to become change makers.
Our goal is simple.
Turn ideas into reality.
Through education.
Through funding.
Through mentorship.
For everyone, everywhere.
We are
Enactus Ryerson.
Great, thank you. It's now time for the question and answer period. Judges, please submit your questions through the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Click on chat and use the drop down to ensure you send your questions directly to me, moderator Colin Monk. And while the questions start coming in, I'm going to have each student say their school name, please, to make sure their audio is working properly. So I can't see your names, but if you could each please state your school name.
Well, first, I'm from Ryerson, and my name is Sana.
Thank you.
I'm from Ryerson. My name is Alessandro.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lindsay, and I'm from Ryerson University.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anil, and I'm from Ryerson University.
Thank you very much. So let's get started with questions. First question we have here from Dan Gully of Enterprise Holdings. How do you validate 2.4 million potatoes were wasted every day?
So that statistic is from a website, Love Food, Hate Waste, and they do censuses on how much food is wasted in the household every day. So they have statistics on potatoes, lettuce, and all sorts of types of produce.
Thank you. Next question from Christian Silva of Uber Canada. For the SMU project, you mentioned that it's an initiative that has been around for 15 years. Can you specify what was done this year, and what was new or innovative?
Yeah. So for the SMU program, there's 3 initiatives: so Startup School, New Venture Competition, and Youth Entrepreneurship Opportunities. So Startup School and New Venture Competition have existed for the past 10 years. We ran a full New Venture Competition this year, where we basically created the event, we vetted out the applicants, and basically got the judges. For Startup School, we basically just helped with the maintenance of the program. So Youth Entrepreneurship Opportunities was created entirely this year. We're currently in our 3rd cohort, and all of the numbers that we reported on for that program are entirely from this year. Both the mentorship was created this year, all the workshops, everything started in June of 2020. So the whole program is completely new, 3 cohorts completely new.
Okay, next question from Hillary Patterson of RBC. Have you thought about how you may be able to scale up Greenology?
Yep. So we've already sort of started that process. This past winter, we implemented our recipe into an organic chemistry course, and it was replicated by 126 students. And they were first-year students in the organic chemistry program. So that's a start. We can definitely look towards recruiting students. Our faculty advisor also works with the Science Discovery Zone, so we'll definitely be leveraging that partnership.
Okay, next question from Terry Buckley of Connect First Credit Union. My question is in relation to your financial literacy program. How did you directly align the impacts of savings and spending with your financial literacy program?
Sorry, I was finding the mute button. So yeah, in terms of aligning savings and spending, so we ask our students feedback after every session, ask them, what do you want to learn? What did you think we missed out on? And then we take that feedback and we influence it into curriculum. So to teach students more savings, we work with companies like Questrade and Alterna Savings, and taught workshops specifically on how to reduce your expenses, specifically your variable expenses, and how to maybe see if there are ways you can reduce your fixed expenses to a certain capacity. In terms of reducing debt, we asked students through our post-workshop surveys how they were able to reduce their debt and by how much, and that's how we got our numbers.
Okay, next question from Lori Atkinson of Libro Credit Union. In your annual report / team bio, there was mention of your programs Net Positive, Inspire, and To Thrive, but no mention of those in the video?
Yeah, so we wanted to focus on these three main projects because we felt we made the biggest impact in this year. Net Positive is actually a new project that we started. I'm very excited to share that hopefully in next year's national presentation, as well as Inspire has actually graduated from the Ryerson University chapter. So we thought it would be most impactful to share about the projects that are making the most impact within the last year, which was these three, but we do have a few more in our portfolio for sure.
Thank you. Next question from Candice J of CCNL Private Capital. Question for Project BITS. Please explain the progression over the years and how many years this project has been in existence.
Yeah, so we started this project 2 years ago when our workshops were budgeting, investing, taxation, and savings, which is where we get the name Project BITS from. And then through the progression, through feedback, through working with more partners, we've grown the project even more. So now I've been able to do 22 workshops this year. And we have an 8-week boot camp with the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education, where we kind of go over all the financial literacy you need to know in 8 weeks. And then we give you a LinkedIn badge to showcase that you understand financial literacy and to show employers that you're ready to use that information in your job.
Thank you. Next question from Nick Lazik of Bell. What is the exit strategy for Greenology? Do you feel that this idea could be sold to a company? Do you feel that this idea could be sold to a company that could build it out as a commercial scale, at a commercial scale? If so, do you have a sense of how large this opportunity could be?
We are still in the very early planning stages of Greenology. So right now we just have a polymer. We're not really sure what we're going to make with it yet, if it's going to be a plastic bag, what type of packaging. So we're trying to optimize the recipe. And then we also know that the members on this team will be staying with this project for at least another 2 years. So yeah, in terms of the exit strategy, we don't really know who we're going to be marketing to just yet. We just know that we want to create a durable polymer that is sourced sustainably and has a positive impact on the planet. We are open to wherever this opportunity takes us.
Thank you. Next question from Moya Brown of IGM Financial. Do you have an overarching program name that unifies all of these different initiatives? Perhaps I missed that in the materials.
So we did have an overarching program name for Startup School, New Venture Competition, and Youth Entrepreneurship Opportunities. So since those are very entrepreneurial focused programs, they're under the Start Me Up branch. However, all of our other projects are their own unique projects.
Thank you. Next question from Jeff Hayes of KPMG. What distinguishes BITS from other financial literacy programs? What is the unique value proposition of this program compared to others?
Yeah, so what distinguishes BITS is that we're incredibly engaging. We constantly throughout our workshops, we have open discussion. We're not just lecturing you, we're working with you to make sure that you understand the content of our learning, as well as we give you things that are tangible that you can take home. For example, if you do the 8-week boot camp, you get the LinkedIn badge that you can show to employers that showcase, hey, I'm financially literacy and I'm ready to use these skills in the workplace.
Thank you. Next question from Raza Hassan of HSBC Bank. You talked about the two $25,000 scholarship/funding. Have you tracked what early success of this initiative has been? Any learnings?
We do follow up with some of the winners of our new venture competition. So, for instance, one of the winners 2 years ago, Razi, he actually created a mental health app that basically tracks somebody's mental health and substance use. And basically, he was able to use the funding he got from the program to actually build out his business. And he's actually now at Harvard studying further education to hopefully scale his business. So we do keep in touch with some of the finalists.
Thank you. Next question from Vivian Ormerod of HSBC Bank. If you had one ask of your stakeholders, what would that be?
That's a great question. I think we have a really good relationship with majority of our stakeholders. We receive a lot of support from Enactus Canada, as well as from our partners within the school. In terms of one specific ask, I think it's just the ongoing support that we would be looking for, if I'm being honest. It's just, they provide us a lot of support, even in directing Greenology with their business ventures and things like that. So I think just remaining involved with our chapter, which they already do an amazing job of doing, but just remaining involved and always having that piece of advice, because they've been in the industry for much longer than we have. And so they obviously have a lot of great experiences to share with us.
Your time has expired. Judges, please join me in congratulating the team from Ryerson University. Judges, we now have a couple of minutes as we bring in the next team. So please use this time to complete your green sheet and we'll get started momentarily. Students, you may now leave the meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me now in welcoming the Enactus team from Lambton College. Please open their report from the link in your email, which we also just shared in the chat, and scroll to their green sheet in your judge handbook. Judges, you will now have 3 minutes to review their report. Judges, please now turn your attention to the screen as we play the video.
People,
planet,
prosperity. All three are completely linked in Project One Circle. As the First Nations people of Canada rise again.
First Nations people were the original inhabitants of what is now Canada,
with cultures spanning thousands of years,
predating European settlers by millennia.
First Nations people established this land,
but our more recent history has left them behind. Through it all, the flame of First Nation cultures continued to burn bright.
And we could see it ready to roar.
So we posed 2 questions to dozens of First Nations communities.
What do you need right now?
And what do you want for your future?
With that, Project One Circle was born.
After 10 years of working in Zambia, Africa, building a scaled and sustained food security project, it was time to focus on people, planet, and prosperity closer to home.
We launched Project One Circle to drive sustainable change in communities lacking equitable, social, and economic opportunities. We have begun work in 31 First Nations across Canada.
Today we will be highlighting 3 food security projects with major commercial intent and an agri-science entrepreneurial project.
These projects have been undertaken with our partner communities, Muscogee, Nistawasis, Muskeg Lake, and Little Black Bear First Nation.
Because people, planet, and prosperity are completely linked in Project One Circle, we have built 4 greenhouses across 3 First Nations in Treaty 6 territory in Saskatchewan.
In our needs assessment with our partner nations, we heard repeatedly that food security is a priority.
We needed a solution that would start producing results quickly, but that could also be a sustainable source of fresh, healthy food with the potential to develop revenue streams.
And that led to the construction of 4 greenhouses.
Developed for year-round growing, they can supply each nation with 600,000 pounds of food annually.
That's a major source of food security, with over $200,000 in yearly revenue.
Just as crucially, the greenhouses are built beside a school, allowing the students and community members to come together and learn hands-on about sustainable agriculture and participate in traditional land-based learning.
For the second component of our food security project, we took that land-based approach further and started developing 2 food forests.
A food forest is like a massive community garden, only more sustainable because it doesn't have to be replanted and requires less maintenance since it mimics a natural ecosystem.
It brings together indigenous approaches to agriculture with innovative permaculture concepts and brings the community together, creating a fully organic and fully sustainable ecosystem.
Our food forests reflect the nation's desire to reconnect people with traditional practices around food and nutrition, culture, and agriculture,
while also increasing food security and providing a much-needed source of revenue.
It's all intertwined in our partner nations. These food forests grow roots as strong as the culture that nourishes them and reflect the resilience of the people who harvest them.
These greenhouses and food forests will nourish the body as they nourish the soul, grow a love of learning while bringing social and cultural prosperity as they bring economic prosperity.
Because people, planet, and prosperity are completely linked in Project One Circle, we are building right now 3 aquaponics facilities in 3 Treaty 6 First Nations.
Aquaponics is the combination of aquaculture, which is the growing of fish, and hydroponics, which is the growing of plants without soil.
The waste produced by fish supplies nutrients to the plants grown hydroponically. In turn, those plants purify the water.
The nutrient and oxygen-rich environment created by aquaponics grows plants 3 times as quickly and produces 8 times more food per acre compared to traditional farming.
It also uses 90% less water than traditional farming, as the water is continuously cycled through the plants and fish tank, with the only water loss stemming from evaporation.
Our 3 aquaponics facilities will provide our partner nations with an abundant source of fish protein and fresh produce.
But wait, it gets better.
And it gets bigger.
Our aquaponics facilities have been created in partnership with Wabatech BDC and are fully funded by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans Northern Integrated Commercial Fisheries Initiative.
Training First Nation staff on the operation and maintenance of aquaponics systems has started.
Once training is completed and the nations are ready, the facilities will be expanded into large commercial operations, creating an entire new industry with our partner First Nations.
And that industry has massive opportunity.
The global demand for seafood and fish products far exceeds what can be caught in the wild.
Within the next 10 years, aquaculture output will have to double production to keep pace with demand, and the biggest opportunity is right here in North America.
We consume 12.9% of the world's aquaculture production, yet produce just 1% of it.
In dollar values, we consume over $32 billion of the world's aquaculture production and produce just over $2 billion.
The demand is here, and our First Nation partners are going to meet it.
These aquaponics facilities will safeguard the environment as they safeguard the nation's futures.
They will create fresh, healthy food as they create jobs, and they will build an industry as they build hope.
Our leadership have fantastic vision for the future prosperity of their communities. However, a lot of times the day-to-day issues that come up when you're managing a community can be really overwhelming. And when you have so many pressing issues today, it's hard to focus on that long-term vision for the future. For me, that's really been the secret sauce of this Enactus relationship. They've been able to add a level of expertise and project planning to our community projects, and they're going to help us achieve that long-term vision of prosperity. The great thing is that the students understand that prosperity isn't always about money. It's not bags of money that our communities need. The projects that we're building reconnect youth with the land, reconnect youth with traditional knowledge by engaging with elders. And most importantly, it creates sparks of interest in future careers that will allow the youth to utilize their most important resources, the land and each other.
Because people, planet, and prosperity are completely linked in Project One Circle, Muscogee, Muskeg-Lake, and Nistawasis First Nations have sustainable food security solutions.
That's over 7,000 people who know that regardless of global pandemics and supply chain issues, They will have access to fresh, healthy food grown by communities themselves using a combination of modern agriculture and traditional indigenous approaches to food production.
Over the next 12 months, the greenhouses, aquaponics, and food forests will supply these three nations with over 725,000 pounds of food worth over $835,000.
Even more than that, Project One Circle gives these nations communal goals to work towards and new education and training opportunities, including opportunities that elevate Indigenous culture and learning.
It's all intertwined in our partner nations.
They've inspired us as they've inspired each other.
Because people, planet, and prosperity are completely linked in Project One Circle, the final project we would like to highlight is the building of a vermicompost business in Little Black Bear First Nation in Treaty 4 territory.
Better Earthworms produces a general purpose, high quality organic plant fertilizer. This plant fertilizer, known as vermicompost, is made from food waste.
Food waste is fed into a flow-through system that hosts hundreds of thousands of worms.
The worms eat the food waste and create an end product that can be sold as an organic soil fertilizer, one that's superior to man-made chemical fertilizers.
What kind of end product do the worms create?
Worm casting or worm manure?
You mean worm poop?
Yes, I mean worm poop.
Better Earthworms uses traditional land-based values used to produce a green, renewable, all-natural, organic product.
It's a product for the land, from the land, produced by the people of the land.
This provides Better Earthworms with a significant competitive advantage in a $77 million market, poised to more than double by 2026.
And with a home base in Saskatchewan, Better Earthworms has easy access to the highest number of organic farmers in Canada.
Research shows that over 20% of the food produced in Canada annually becomes avoidable food loss, and that is 11 million tons.
Better Earthworms provides an organic waste collection service to local food production and food service industries, diverting food waste from the landfill and converting it to the highest quality soil amendment.
Our vermicompost fertilizer is already being sold directly to consumers, and soon 4 garden centers in Regina will be selling it.
We're on target to generate over $70,000 in revenue this year, creating 3 new jobs while diverting 52,000 pounds of food waste from landfills.
A project is also underway with our college's Department of Research and Innovation to study the effect of food supply on the chemical composition of the vermicompost.
This project will allow Better Earthworms to control the nutritional output of their vermicompost, creating a highly specialized product.
You mean specialized worm poop?
Yes, I mean specialized worm poop.
What came from the earth is returned to it, growing healthy, organic food as it grows a business.
Using innovation to enhance Indigenous traditions while respecting the environment.
The earth gives us everything we need to sustain ourselves. But in nature, nothing goes to waste. We take food scraps that would otherwise end up in the landfill and feed it to our earthworms, creating a beautiful, rich compost.
As an Indigenous-owned company, we think it's crucially important that we are innovative and that we're leaders when it comes to caring for the environment. At Better Earthworms, our goal is to reduce as much waste as possible so that we can give it back to the land.
With Project One Circle, we are helping our partner nations gain food security by returning to land-based learning and the agricultural practices at which they once thrived before laws in the 1880s extinguished their farming.
That's how we're helping people.
We're also focusing on organic growing, increasing crop output while decreasing our carbon footprint, minimizing water usage, reducing food waste going to landfills, and reducing how much food needs to be brought into the nations while decreasing fossil fuel usage.
That's how we are impacting the planet.
And not only are we creating revenue streams, new businesses, and an entire industry in our partner nations, but we're helping to bring these communities together around common goals, renewing their love of agriculture and land-based education while shining a light on the importance of Indigenous culture and traditions.
That's our idea of prosperity.
So the partnership with the Enactus group has provided for our communities an understanding of potential projects that they could be bringing to their community members, to the children, as well as providing for potential economic sustainability, building capacities for future generations to take the stronghold. And for us, that's an exciting venture. I think this is something that can absolutely grow the potential of our youth and potential of the success of our children.
We can't change the past and what has happened to First Nations in Canada, but through reconciliation built on understanding, trust, and commitment, this project and our team can be a small part of changing the future.
We are Enactus Lambton.
Great. It is now time for the question and answer period, judges. So please submit your questions through the chat function like last time. At the bottom of your screen, click on chat and use the drop down to ensure you send your questions directly to me, moderator Colin Monk. And while the questions start coming in, I'm going to have each student please say your school name to make sure your audio is working properly. I'll start with you, Andrea.
Hi, Lambton College.
Thank you. And Megan?
Lambton College.
Perfect. And Brian?
Lambton College.
We can hear you. Let's get started with the questions. We have a few questions here from Jacqueline Weatherby, who is Vice President of Communications and Corporate Affairs at Sobeys. First question, what was the initial investment on Better Earthworms program, and have you tested it with other agri-food groups?
So the initial monetary investment in Better Earthworms was about $15,000, and that investment was used to purchase different materials, the facility that they are creating the product in. And we haven't tested the product with anything else yet. It's currently in the development stage, and so it is on quite a small scale. They're actually operating out of their house at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Jacqueline. Seafood food safety is a huge challenge in Canada, especially from the product we source internationally, products. How have you worked through food safety best practices in the seafood category?
That's a great question. So we're actually working with experts that are in the seafood industry. So we're working with NICFI, which is the Northern Integrated Commercials Fishery Initiative, as well as the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, located in Canada. And so we're beginning with a small scale aquaponics facility in each of these three nations. And that is for the reason that we're starting small and working through all of those kinks. We're going to make sure that we are well aware of all of the safety issues that come along with producing seafood. And that way, when we do expand and we are ready to continue into a commercial environment for sales across Canada, we have all of this figured out and we have all of that proper knowledge and training from these experts and partners that we're currently working with.
I just want to jump in here and add, we also have a partnership with Wabatech Business Development Corporation, who also have worked with over a dozen First Nations on aquaculture projects all over Ontario.
Thank you. Next question from Christian Silva of Uber Canada. How do you source these innovative farming techniques? Can you provide an example of an innovation from this year and an example of a technique that you tried but wasn't successful?
So all of the different agriculture techniques that we come across are from discussions that we have with our partner First Nations. And so like Megan just mentioned, we're working with Wabatech, which is an Indigenous owned organization that helps to deliver this aquaculture project. And by working with them and our partner First Nations, we have many discussions to learn what is going to best meet their goals. And from there, we grow our projects. And I'll just toss it over to Megan to see if she has anything to add also.
Another thing I just want to add is we originally wanted to grow trout and tilapia, but through discussions, we realized that they needed a specific temperature and they couldn't grow that in Saskatchewan. So then we just had to pivot our growth plan.
Okay, and there was another part to that question, an example of a technique that you tried but wasn't successful?
So we actually haven't encountered anything that hasn't been successful as of yet. So all of these projects that we presented to you in our presentation have just developed over this past year. And so the aquaponics facilities that we're currently working on are actually in the process of being built. And we're currently delivering the training on them as well. And so at the current moment, we haven't encountered anything that hasn't been successful.
Thank you. Next question from Moya Brown of IGM Financial. Do you have data on the nutrient density of aquaponically grown produce?
That's a really great question. So we have done some research, or extensive research, I should say, in the aquaponics area, but we also do work closely with experts in that field because Myself and the students on our team aren't experts in aquaponics, and we're not going to pretend to be. And so that is why we rely heavily on our aquaponics experts, especially because it is a complicated and very complex field to be working in. And so as far as the statistics I can give you is that we do save 90% of the water in comparison to growing plants or plants in a traditional way. I believe we also did include in the presentation that we grow 3 times as quickly and produce 8 times more food in comparison to traditional farming. And the way that this works is that all of the plants can be spaced much closer together, and the nutrients that the fish can't use because they're actually toxic for the fish are then given to the plants, and they're very helpful to grow the plants and exactly the right nutrients that they need.
Thank you. Next question from Jeff Hayes of KPMG. How have you funded these ventures? I heard in your presentation that you received some grants. And how do you expect to fund sustained operations and expansion projects?
Yeah, that's a great question also. So we are fully funded for our aquaponics project by NICFI and DFO, but our team in particular is funded by various different partnerships. And so we have quite a large partnership with a financial institution. We actually recently just came out publicly with our signed agreement for $750,000 worth of funding over the next 3 years to support our project. And we are also in discussions with several other partners. So it wasn't in our presentation, but just within the last few weeks, we finalized a partnership with Light Up the World, which works in partnership with Enbridge across Canada. And we are also working with another organization called ICE, which stands for Indigenous Clean Energies, and they work across Canada also and are very well funded. And so we are just looking to rely on partners to be able to expand. And it's also worth mentioning that the nations do contribute finances to these projects also. And so each of the greenhouses were fully funded by the nations themselves. And the reason for this is so that way they have ownership in the project, and they're really just investing into their own future. So they feel it's valuable for them to also contribute a monetary value.
I just want to jump in here quickly. We also are in discussions with that same financial institution to extend the partnership over another 3 years. So that would give our team 6 years to be completely funded for these projects.
Okay, we had another question along the same lines from Jeff Hayes. What are your capital and operating costs, and does the revenue to date sustain the costs?
So our capital costs offhand, that's kind of a hard question to answer because we are working in so many different areas that they do range quite a bit. So we have, just to give you an idea, we've invested almost $600,000 into our projects this year. And the source of that funding or that money came from several different sources of funding. Like I just mentioned, several different partnerships that we are currently working with. And I'm sorry, could you just repeat the second part of that question? I just want to make sure I get it all.
Sure. It was, so what is the capital and operating costs, and does the revenue to date sustain the costs?
Yes, so currently the revenue to date will sustain the costs. Like any project, it does take a few years to generate enough revenue to be able to pay all of those costs. So we're expecting, that just to continue to grow, but at this current moment, it is sustaining those costs.
Next question from Lori Atkinson of Libro Credit Union. Is there a plan to scale the program to other First Nations throughout Canada?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, Laurie. So we are working in several different ways to be able to better scale this project. And one of those ways is that we are constantly using the train the trainer method. And so, like I mentioned earlier, we're not experts in everything. So even our team members receive training, and then we locate champions within each of the communities who we then train to continue to train others within the community on all.
Your time has expired. Judges, please join me in congratulating the team from Lambton College.
Thank you.
Thank you. Judges, we have a couple of minutes as we bring the next team in, so please use this time to complete your green sheet and we'll get started momentarily. Students, you may now leave the meeting. Thank you. Judges, please turn your attention to the screen as we play the video.
We've all heard the expression that there's plenty of fish in the sea, but a new report says those fish could soon be outnumbered by plastic garbage. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation released a report saying if the amount of plastic in the world's oceans continues to increase, there will be more pounds of plastic than there are pounds of fish in the ocean by 2050.
You may have heard this news before about our alarming problem with single-use plastic, but have you ever stopped to think about your impact? 3 million tons of plastic waste are thrown away by Canadians every year, including 15 billion plastic bags. We were able to discover specific statistics in the US for plastic wrap too. In 2020, 5.3 million Americans used 10 or more rolls of plastic wrap, and 83.4 million used at least one. Additionally, plastic wrap is rarely recycled because it clogs machinery. That means the contribution to landfills last year alone equaled over $500 million from plastic wrap itself. At Enactus NSCC Ivany campus, we have been concerned about our oceans and marine life and how single-use plastic could be taking over the ocean we are so lucky to live by. Concurrently to our team looking for a way to reduce plastic waste, we began research for a project working with beehives to deal with the declining bee population and the impact it has on our food supply. This research began over 5 years ago when a team member who was passionate about the importance of bees felt like we could make a difference. Unfortunately, since our research began, the national story for the bees has not gotten any better. According to Statistics Canada, the number of honeybee colonies have dropped by nearly 45,000 from 2019 to 2020. These statistics do not include wild bees that are also crucial pollinators, so therefore the number is much higher. When the team looked closer at the two issues of single-use plastic waste and potential food insecurity due to the declining bee population side by side, we saw an opportunity. We could work with Beeswax to make reusable food wrap. We knew we wanted to run a project with a community group, connecting them to beekeepers to increase knowledge on the importance of bees, but also have them use a product harvested from the hives to launch a social enterprise. Beeswax produced by the beehives is much easier to work with than honey, as it has less health and safety regulations and can be easily removed from the hives without causing the bees distress. Which meant we designed an ideal product solution to create and sell, an eco-friendly beeswax wrap that preserves food and reduces plastic waste. Beeswax food wrap is flexible, will cling to surfaces, and is easily hand-washed after each use. This product will help reduce the amount of plastic that Nova Scotians contribute to landfills each day. Our team was so excited to create a project that tackled two important environmental concerns: our declining bee population and single-use plastic. This is Project High Five. Project High Five's product is made by taking a piece of cloth that is then coated in melted beeswax. This beeswax wrap can be used typically for 4 months before the quality begins to deteriorate.
Sorry, we seem to be having some technical problems. Mike, are you able to try reloading the video?
We've all heard the expression.
Sorry about this, judges.
Currently, we sell wraps in packs of 3 for $15. Each pack contains a small, medium, and large-sized wrap. We also have packs of 2 extra large for $22. From the beginning stages of our project design, we knew we wanted to work with a community group, but which one? Where would we put our focus? When conducting research, we found that youth unemployment is a worldwide crisis given the combined factors of overpopulation, limited jobs, and limited resources. In Canada, the youth unemployment rate for January 2021 was 15.7%, and Nova Scotian youth fared even worse, as our rate was 17.4%. In addition, a report from the World Economic Forum cites that as much as 65% of children entering primary school today will work in roles that don't currently exist. Presenting youth with opportunities to explore entrepreneurship is one way to prepare them for an uncertain future. An entrepreneurial skill set includes creativity and ability to troubleshoot, collaborate, and quickly adapt or pivot. We saw this as another opportunity for Project High Five. We would work with youth in Nova Scotia. Wait, can entrepreneurship decrease the rate of youth unemployment? At Enactus NSCC Ivany campus, we believe it can. We designed Project High Five with 5 main fundamentals: to build self-confidence and self-awareness in youth through entrepreneurial and environmental workshops, to empower youth through entrepreneurial action in hopes to provide them sustainable employment, to educate the public on the impacts of single-use plastic, to teach youth the importance of bees to our food security by connecting them to local beekeepers for our beeswax supply, and to reduce the amount of waste in our landfills and CO2 released into our atmosphere. Project High Five is in year 5 and certainly this year has presented many challenges, but it has also allowed us to rethink the way we run our team, projects, and businesses. To give you some context on the time frame of our project, year 1 was design. In year 2, we partnered with the 4-H Club of East Hants. After some struggles with membership, they felt they couldn't continue in year 3, so we partnered with the Hombres Youth Society. Hombres is a non-profit organization that provides residential care in the child welfare system. These youth come to Hombres in crisis. All would have experienced a lack of resources. Some would have experienced abuse or addiction. High Five is designed to empower the youth to run their own business, give the youth ownership in helping a current societal issue, and connects the youth to our members through a mentorship relationship, which is crucial for skill building and entrepreneurial confidence. We focus on building our mentorship relationship through our workshops, which include the environmental importance of bees, waste reduction and recycling, sales and marketing, and financial management, which will provide a strong foundation for the youth to create and sell the products harvested from their beehives. In year 3 of the project, working for the first time with Homebridge, the youth designed branding, a logo, and packaging. All of our wraps are sold under the name Wax Wraps. At the end of our 3rd year at Nationals in 2019, we had $450 in pre-sales as production had not yet started. Last year at Nationals, having been able to work with Hombridge 2 years in a row, we saw wax wrap sales increase by 203% year over year. Then the global pandemic hit, and individuals and groups struggled to find a new normal. Hombridge decided to take a pause on Project High Five to focus on keeping their youth in care safe. However, before we leave this part of our story, let's hear from Renee, the communications director, about the impact of High Five.
Unfortunately, the outcomes for youth in care are not always very optimistic. In fact, statistics show that 68% of them will experience homelessness at some point in their life. The High Five program, however, is helping to change this statistic. The participants are gaining valuable life skills and employability skills that will help to better prepare them for successful independent living in the future. They're learning entrepreneurial skills like marketing, sales, and business planning. They're also gaining experience in product production and customer service that they can list on their resume. And just as importantly, they're building the confidence and resilience they need to keep working towards a brighter future.
Despite the many challenges presented by COVID in this past year, we were able to build off the success of our engagement with Homebridge and add a new partner, the Boys and Girls Club. From the Boys and Girls Club of Canada website, they believe that through life-changing programs, community-based services, and relationships with peers and caring adults, BGC Canada helps kids and teens develop the skills they need to succeed. They were a natural fit for the 5 fundamentals of Project High Five. One of our own members' children attend the local club, so we were able to connect with an additional 17 youth who were excited to start their own wraps. We found ourselves needing to pivot in year 5 of our little startup project. Not only did we have a new partner, but now instead of our typical multi-visit workshop model, we needed to create video workshops that could be accessed by our participants anywhere at any time. To accompany these videos, we also created customized project kits or workboxes to help them run the activities with our remote support. In addition to a workbox with the materials and instructions on how to produce the wraps, we provided a class plan with content for every meeting. It has the videos, printable materials, and suggested activities to be adapted according to the group's characteristics. We sent all this to the partner, and after a welcoming online meeting with the youth, they were able to begin building the wraps with our videos and materials while we act in a supporting role. We will then re-engage with the group to educate and assist them with additional marketing and sales support. In the past with Homebridge, the youth would sell the wraps with our support through Friends of the Homebridge Youth Society, at local markets, on our campus, and online. In 2020, we set up an account with Amazon, and at the peak, sales were only limited by our production capacity. This year, we didn't just grow High Five to include a new partner, we also grew our team. We started with 2 members from one campus in September to having 61 members across 6 provincial campuses by the end of the school year. With the growth and reach of our team, we hope to expand the project through the Boys and Girls Club across the province. We have also received interest in starting the project from additional organizations such as the Brazilian Community Association in Halifax, Casa Brazil. We are currently building our inventory and hope to be selling before the end of May. We have made many positive changes to this project to ensure we can still make positive changes in our community and empower the youth. Based on our past success and with more than double the participants than last year, we expect the projected sales this year to be 182 wrap packs for $2,730 in revenue, which would be double the sales from 2020 and a revenue increase of 507% in just 2 years. Our profit margin is 75%, which also means the youth will earn $2,048 along with the pride they will have in some incredible environmental impact. As an Enactus team, we are running our own business by engaging the youth at the Boys and Girls Club to sell Beeswax food wraps. We are not only helping the youth develop entrepreneurial skills, but our team is running a business and learning all about social enterprise and how to pivot throughout the process. Remember in the beginning, we told you about the impact for families? Each family needs on average 2 packs of wax wraps to reduce and potentially eliminate the single-use plastic from their household. With our projected sales, we will help 91 families replace their single-use plastic, saving $18,200, eliminating 2,093 pounds of plastic from landfills and oceans, and diverting 4,746 kilograms of CO2 from the Earth's atmosphere. When you buy wax wraps, you are benefiting youth, the future of our landfills, oceans, and atmosphere, your pocketbooks, and contributing to a clean and productive Nova Scotia. Our team members have made the switch to beeswax wraps. Will you? If we haven't convinced you, let's hear from one of our newest and youngest participants.
I like to learn that we use beeswax to replace the plastic from the wild.
We believe that exposing youth to an entrepreneurial mindset will create a new generation of social entrepreneurs that will be empowered to create positive environmental change. We believe that exposing youth to an entrepreneurial mindset will create a new generation of social entrepreneurs that will be empowered to create positive environmental change. And we are Enactus NSCC Ivany Campus.
Judges, please join me in welcoming the Enactus team from Nova Scotia Community College, Ivany. I'd just like to apologize that I forgot to let you all read their report before we jumped into the video, so I'll give you all 3 minutes now to review the report from Nova Scotia Community College, Ivany. Cody, could you please share the report in the chat? Thank you. It is now time for the question and answer period to begin. So judges, please submit your questions through the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Reminder, please send the chat to myself, moderator Colin Monk, send them directly to me. And while the questions start coming in, I'd like to have each of you two please state your school name to make sure your audio is working properly. So Gabriella, could you please state your school name?
Nova Scotia Community College, Ivan campus.
Thank you, Gabriella. And Adriana?
NSCC Ivany.
Thank you very much for you too. So let's get started with the first question, which is from Lori Atkinson of Libro Credit Union. I have recently noticed a number of companies creating beeswax wraps. How do you differentiate your product from the competition?
Our value proposition includes not only supporting the environment by reducing the use of single-use plastic wraps, but also while doing this, enabling the youth to be entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, and learning more about the environment, about the importance of bees, and of how to be an entrepreneur with all the skills we deliver while they are learning how to produce the wraps.
Thank you. Next question from Sarah Atkins of Sarah Atkins Consulting. What strategies are you implementing to drive awareness for wax wrap?
Currently, we are using social media. We started off this year using Instagram and I believe Facebook, and using our school's community network as well. Those are the main strategies that we're using.
Thank you. Next question from Raza Hassan of HSBC Bank. The income per youth still looks low. How can you increase production and sales so it becomes more sustainable and becomes a main source of income for a youth?
I'd like to answer that and also add that this year we had to rethink the whole project. When we started the year, we didn't have students, we didn't have partners because Hombres had to leave to adapt to the new scenario. So most of the organizations that we would have as partners, they were trying to keep working themselves. So our main goal was to recruit students, to recruit new partners, and we succeeded in doing that. But we had to rethink the whole format for our project and the whole sales, what we were planning to sell, and also even the costs involved in producing wraps. Realize, for example, that fabric is more expensive now than it was before. So at the end of this last month, we started a study to really think about what's our profit margin and how we keep working on this in the next year. And we left a document for the students on that. So just for you to have a view on that. And about how to improve the revenue, we do not intend to have this as their main revenue within the project, but to teach them the skills, how to be entrepreneurs and how to work in the world as social entrepreneurs. So this even makes our exit strategy easier because we make it clear they will be rewarded of their work, but it will not be a main source of revenue for them. What they learned is the most important in the project.
Thank you. Next question from Jeff Hayes of KPMG. Can you clarify the calculation basis for determining the cost savings of 18,200 and the related pounds of waste diverted of 2,093?
Could you just repeat the question? Oh, okay, Adriana, you can go.
No, if you don't mind repeating the question as well.
Sure. Yeah. So Jeff is asking if you can clarify the calculation basis for determining the cost savings of $18,200 and the related pounds of waste diverted of 2,093.
Yep. So we were using our previous year's statistic on how many pounds of plastic waste families use a year. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but we used that with the number that we found of how many plastic wraps are used a year in the US, along with the plastic bags and any other single-use plastics, and we divided it that way. That's as far as I can remember.
Something that can be helpful on that question is that we calculated that each family would need 2 packs of wraps to not use single-use plastic wraps. So we combine this information of each family having 2 packs of wraps and with our revenue and with the amount of wraps each family generates per year.
Thank you. Next question from Nick Tantalo of Alterna Savings. How does the use of beeswax in your product help protect and sustain bee colonies? And what happens with the wax wrap after its 4-month lifespan?
Well,
okay, so sorry. So in terms of the wrap after the 4 months, what you do, you can refresh it with more beeswax, or it's easily recycled, considering it's just beeswax and just fabric. So it doesn't really affect the environment too much if you do end up throwing it away rather than refreshing it. And what was the other part of the question, sorry?
Sure. The first part was, how does the use of beeswax in your product help protect and sustain bee colonies?
So it will essentially encourage people to keep bees. So more beekeepers will earn profit from the beeswax being sold to us, for example, as a project, and therefore it will encourage them to hold more bee colonies, and maybe even people who have never thought of keeping bees would start doing so as well, and hopefully help encourage the growth of the populations within Nova Scotia and hopefully across Canada if the project spreads. And the beeswax, as we mentioned, the project is less distressful for the bees to actually take out rather than honey. So it would essentially be harmless for the bee colonies. So not only would it increase the populations by people actually keeping them, but would also not harm them in any way.
Next question from Christian Silva of Uber Canada. How do you support the youth involved into finding sales channels?
We have a website that we created. It's not on yet because we are still working on increasing our inventory. We have an Amazon account created last year to sell it. And we also use the communications within the college community to sell this, the social media. We have our own social media, our Instagram account, and we also use the college social media, internal communications to promote the product and sell it in college events.
Thank you. Next question we have here, again from Christian. Who benefits from sales from online channels, as you mentioned that you started to sell on Amazon?
We haven't started yet selling through Amazon. We created the account and it was just before the pandemic, so we give it a pause for now. But the benefits all goes to the kids, to the youth, because we want them to experience how rewarding it is when you put effort, you dedicate to a project, and you get the profit from that. Not the amount of money they make, but the feeling of the revenue.
Question from Hillary Patterson of RBC. How are you marketing Project High Fives wraps to ensure people know about the social good involved to differentiate the product from other beeswax wraps on the market?
I think through interaction on social media, like we have mentioned, so like Instagram stories kind of used to introduce facts related to the beeswax and to the youth and to what the project is trying to accomplish, and then having people interact with those stories.
Your time has expired. Sorry to interrupt. Judges, please join me in congratulating the team from Nova Scotia Community College, Ivany. Thank you. Judges, we now have a scheduled break. So please, let's take a break of 5 minutes. So it's 2:40. So I'd ask that please that you'd all be back here at your screens no later than 2:45 p.m. Eastern Time. And we will begin with the last 2 presentations. Thank you very much. And the students, you can now leave the meeting. Thank you. So judges, we will get rolling with our next presentation to keep on moving here. So please join me in welcoming the Enactus team from Concordia University. Please open their report from the link in your email, which we also just shared in the chat, or will be shared shortly, and scroll to their green sheet in your judge handbook. Thank you. And judges, I will now give you 3 minutes to review the report from Concordia University. Judges, please turn your attention to the screen as we play the video.
What makes us so different in the animal kingdom? We are the only species that can comfortably maintain 150 stable relationships. This is the base that has allowed us to form a neural network of connections and build societies so vast and multi-diverse.
That in mind, you can only imagine how devastating it was for people to go from this to this.
After running a survey among Concordia students to see how isolation has been affecting them, we found that 89% of participants say they found it difficult to stay motivated and productive.
73% of participants strongly agreed that they felt disconnected from their friends.
84% of participants said they wanted to learn how to be motivated and productive.
My name is Ashraf, and I want to talk about mental health.
My name is Christina, and I want to open the conversation about saving our planet one household at a time.
My name is Agathe, and I want to talk about equal opportunities for all and educating our youth.
My name is Lukman, and I want to start the conversation.
How are you? No, how are you really? How often do you answer this question truthfully?
1 in 5 people will struggle with their mental health at one point in their life. 60% of people with a mental health problem or illness won't seek help for fear of being labeled.
Staying silent kills.
Being confined all alone in their rooms, millions of students turn to the best distraction there is, their phones.
In order to compensate for the lack of socialization in our new normal, people are coping by spending more time than ever on the internet.
We found that there was a chance to educate people and give them an outlet through social media. By providing comfort and being relatable, we could reassure them that they're not alone.
Our Project Vive is here to help.
In French, Vive means long live. Our purpose is to help people thrive and sustain an open-mindedness towards mental health. In order to do so, Project Vive believes in fighting the stigma at its core by encouraging students to be vulnerable about their own experiences.
We knew we wanted a safe environment to foster connections, and so we launched our Don't Bottle It Up photo series in 2019.
Students were invited to send us a picture and a message that they wanted to share regarding their mental health journey.
As of now, over 60 stories have been shared on our social media from a variety of experiences such as living with trauma, learning to cope with a mental illness, self-growth, and so much more.
This has given exposure to so many students that can relate to the emotions and experiences that their peers have lived through. During this time of isolation, the need for empathy and solidarity is craved even more. And our initiative has been able to fulfill this void for all of the students following our page.
Being to find resources and a community is more crucial than ever. So not only did we want to share stories, but we started sharing resources and tips. We spoke about men's and women's mental health, self-care, productivity, isolation, stress, and burnout.
We saw how well our photo series went, so we wanted to do even more for these students. Introducing our Don't Bottle It Up event, an open discussion where we invite guest speakers to share their stories.
This in-person event was so memorable and reminded us that people do want to talk about mental health. They just needed the right environment to do so. While planning our 4th Don't Bottle It Up event this year, we adapted to our new reality. We knew that people urgently needed mental health support.
Many students have been deprived of being able to socialize in a way that inspired deep conversations, so we embraced it. We recreated physical cues by asking participants to use reactions on Zoom and encouraging them to turn on their cameras to mimic an in-person experience. For many, this was a mental health check.
We were pleased to see that the dynamic created allowed for the 70 participants to interact in the chat box or unmute themselves and add on to the speakers.
After opening up the floor for attendees, many of them felt encouraged to spontaneously share their own mental health journeys.
Hi, I'm Pamela Pagano, and it was such an honor for me to be a speaker at this year's Don't Bottle It Up event. It was such a beautiful, safe space created by the Vive team that made me feel comfortable to share my story and for many others to share theirs too. I was truly inspired, and I look forward to partake in next year's as well.
We wanted to organize something special for this year's Don't Bottle It Up event, so we decided to host a fundraiser for Head and Hands, a Montreal-based non-for-profit organization that provides medical, legal, and social services to youth under the age of 25.
So how did we raise the funds? By working with local Montreal businesses, we reached out to the owners, and with their collaboration, we were able to sell tote bags, bracelets, and keychains that best represented Vive.
The fundraiser ended up exceeding our expectations and enabled us to foster relationships with local organizations.
We also took it upon ourselves to educate students on one of the biggest struggles during the pandemic, managing productivity and fighting procrastination.
We collaborated with Jack.org, one of the biggest mental health organizations for the youth in Canada, to host a mental health summit. The attendees were shown how to bring awareness to one's current state of mental health, identify reasons for procrastinating, and ways to overcome lack of motivation.
This year, we impacted and left our mark on over 110 of the participants at our online events. We now have 243 followers on our Instagram and 522 followers on our Facebook page. With a reach of over 700 people every month, creating content 3 times a week, and sparking live discussions on our social media, this year we've been able to influence more than 5,200 people.
What's next for Viv?
We started a spin-off version of the Don't Bottle It Up series. The aim of our new Dear Diary series is to invite anybody to anonymously write a paragraph in Viv's virtual diary and having it shared on our platform.
We hope to have our 5th annual Don't Bottle It Up event in person. By continuing our collaboration with small local businesses, we will collect funds and give them back to our community.
We won't stop there. 2021 will be the year we focus on educational workshops about therapy and trauma. We want to make talking about mental health openly the reality for the youth of our future.
How else can we support today's youth? Enactus Concordia is focused on opening up the conversation to break the stigma, identify discrimination, and end inequality.
I've been with Codel for almost 3 years as head coder, and I've had the privilege of seeing the organization grow tremendously. From teaching students in a small lab on campus, to teaching at the Montreal Planetarium, and to finally handling the pandemic and working on successful webinars, the organization has grown tremendously. As Codel grew, I could also see that the girls grew more interested in learning how to code, and this was especially evident over the past year.
Project Codel is not only trying to even out the current gender gap in computer science, it also aims to empower young individuals. We want to show young girls they can combine their passion with technology.
In 2017, only 17% of Quebec's computer science majors were women, falling below the national rate of 20%. The long-standing gender gap in the tech workforce hasn't changed. It has in fact worsened over the last 10 years.
Girls are typically intimidated to pursue coding education in co-ed environments. Virtual classrooms limit their participation and decrease their motivation.
We knew that we have found an idea that could change the lives of young girls in the STEM field.
In 2018, Codel started offering free monthly coding workshops to high school girls, mentored by computer science students from Concordia's Women in Engineering.
By developing a 5-year partnership with Le Planetarium Montréal to host our workshops, we had the opportunity to cater to all ages and triple our monthly attendance.
Olivier Hernandez, the director of the planetarium, believed in Codel's vision. Through his studies, he found out that girls as early as the age of 10 are uncomfortable sharing their voice when working with a boy.
Winning Enactus Scotiabank Youth Empowerment Challenge in 2020 was not the end for us. This year showed us that girls not only needed resources, they needed to find motivation and meaning.
We continued our workshops virtually through an online coding platform. With the help of Concordia computer science students, we have enriched the curriculum from HTML and JavaScript all the way to Python. We came up with engaging activities to encourage girls to interact with us throughout the workshops.
This year, we opened the discussion about the gender gap even more. We decided to focus on what women from the STEM field are experiencing.
We hosted a webinar in order to spread knowledge and educate people about the reality of being a woman in this industry. In contrast to our workshops that are only open to females, our webinar was accessible to everyone.
Closing the gender gap needs the attention of each and every one of us. Throughout the workshop, we heard from speakers such as the CEO and co-founder of Le Wagon Montréal, the director of the Rio Tinto Alcan Montréal Planetarium, a backend developer at Shopify, a programmer at Ubisoft, and our very own Concordia women in engineering students.
We had the opportunity to collaborate on 2 more projects with Le Wagon Montréal throughout the year, a female-only workshop and the data analysis bootcamp.
Our visibility increased more and more throughout the year.
We directly impacted 347 girls this year. On one social media post alone, we had 5,632 interactions from people ready to talk about the gender gap.
So, what's next for Codel? After a year of studying, working, and living online, we noticed that learning how to code alone in our room is not an easy task.
We are currently launching a series of 10 videos of tips and tricks about coding. This way, girls will have access to resources at any time. We are creating a podcast with powerful women from the STEM field to learn more about their experience in the tech field and to give young females role models.
Beyond coding, Codel ensures that women do not fall behind in tomorrow's workforce making tomorrow's female tech executives today.
Our impact does not stop there.
Project InStep focuses on opening up the conversation to promote equal opportunities for all.
Project Educo focuses on opening up the conversation to educate our youth.
Project Embellir focuses on opening up the conversation about saving our planet.
At Enactus Concordia, we can create positive change in the world. However, we cannot do this alone.
We need you to help us continue the conversation.
Let's talk.
Okay, thank you. It's now time for the question and answer period to begin. Judges, please start submitting your questions through the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Click on chat and use the drop down to ensure you send your questions directly to me, moderator Colin Monk. And while the questions start coming in, I'm going to have each of you students please state your school name. So let's start with Ashraf.
Concordia University.
Thank you. And Lukman.
Concordia University.
And Christina.
Concordia University.
Great, we can hear you fine. So let's get started with the first question from Nick Lazik of Bell. Why do you think Don't Bottle It Up was successful in making participants feel safe sharing their concerns? And how do you think you could grow the program to support more people?
So we made sure that Don't Bottle It Up allowed for people to have an outlet to share their stories because we created a space where we made sure that they feel safe and that they felt like it was okay for them to be vulnerable. So we had speakers that would come in and would voluntarily talk about their journeys, and then they would just jump on the participants and they would be able to share their stories as well. And that created a sense of community. And we want to continue to grow the project by giving it exposure to other universities. So we want to make sure that we focus on the demographic of young adults, but to continue to grow it and promote it within universities like Sherbrooke and Université de Montréal, McGill, all the way to all of the universities around Canada.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Laurie Atkinson of Libro Credit Union, who says, mental health is a very, very complex issue. What health specialists and or experts did you reach out to for advice and or support?
So we made sure to speak with, obviously, Jack.org, which is our biggest partner this year, to talk about what it is to share safely the subject of mental health. We also spoke to staff at Concordia, like the ones in our psychological studies, as well as professors, to learn more about how to talk and present on the subject of mental health.
Thank you. Next question from Vivian Ormorad of HSBC Bank. Have you collaborated with women in coding to support you in driving Codel further?
So yes, within Concordia University, we spoke to a community or a club called Women in Engineering. So with the connections we created with them a few years ago, we maintained communications with the president that took it over every single year. And through there, we're able to receive our teaching assistants as well as our head coders. They didn't have to be directly within the Women Engineering Club, but they had connections to all the students at Concordia that were studying coding.
Thank you. Next question from Jeff Hayes of KPMG. For your program Vive, how do you ensure that your team is properly equipped to deal with mental health issues and educate others?
So one way we made sure to do that is to share resources with our team and to learn about the training that is regarding mental health triggers or situation. So one way would be we learned with Jack.org how to ensure the steps in a situation where during the event someone might feel unsafe or might feel triggered by a certain subject of mental health. And so we just made sure that our team were well educated on the topic and that they felt trained in case a scenario did happen.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Terry Buckley of Connect First Credit Union, who says, you've done a great job articulating social impact of your initiatives, but he'd like to know if you can shed some light on positive economic impact for people or for communities. Just the question again was, can you shed some light on positive economic impact you had for people or for communities?
So one thing that we did do with Project V was that when we were hosting our Don't Bottle It Up event, we wanted to kind of speak with Montreal local businesses and be able to support them, especially with COVID-19. So we had the fundraiser with Head for Hands, and we were able to give tote bags, bracelets, and keychains as well. So we work with specific Montreal businesses, and we're able to purchase stuff from them that we've been able to give to our participants, whether they want them or whether we just raise the funds for those organizations.
Okay, thank you. Judges, I'm out of questions, so please go ahead and send any more questions you may have. Okay, we have a new question here. As a father of 2 girls for Project Codel, you seem to be focusing on girls of all ages. As you try to focus your limited resources, what age group do you start to have maximum long-term impact?
So initially, our target audience was high school girls because being a female myself and with the people that we work with, we understood that starting at the age of 13 was when you kind of started to see what your interests were and you kind of started to feel maybe open or even uncomfortable in certain situations. Therefore, our main focus was high school girls starting from Sec 1 or 13 years old till about 17. When we created the 5-year partnership with the planetarium, we saw that we were able to host more people because we had larger areas or even Zoom considering this year. So we hosted the university and CJIPs as well. But we truly believe our target audience and the girls that could receive the most impact long-term and even understand what this gender gap is and help bridge it would be high school girls.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Jeff Hayes of KPMG. How do you connect all these different initiatives, Vive, Codel, InStep, Embellir, Eduquo, under one umbrella platform? How can you leverage resources from one initiative to benefit the others?
So within Enactus Concordia, we currently are lucky to, for the past couple of years, have about a few executives on our team. So let's say roughly this year we were 17 executives. We had 5 projects, and each VP project was designated, to focus on their projects. But what we also did were the other executives around us and project managers were also given tasks for each single one of the projects. So they were able to help each other. And we truly, at the beginning of every year, created a sense of community. So whether it was Project Codel that needed to reach out for resources, they felt comfortable speaking with other project managers or other VP projects that were able to help them throughout the process. Sometimes it was understanding how to contact schools, like Educo had to contact schools with COVID-19, or Codel how to be able to speak to tech companies. People might have had those resources there. So we ensured that we did have the right people in the right positions, but we also knew that you're able to speak to everybody in our team that could help you out with what situation is occurring.
Okay, Christian Silva says, thanks for talking about mental health. And he'd like to know, how do you ensure that you have funds to run these initiatives?
So one way would be through the grants that we receive, as well as with the partnerships that we have. So with the partnership that we had with Jack.org, they were able to fund up to $1,000 for our mental health summit. So that's one great way that we're able to cut off some of the expenses that we have, as well as working with the small companies and businesses. They're really looking forward to helping an initiative like ours. So we find that with our low expenses, a lot of it can be covered with the grants and the partnerships that we have.
Thank you. Next question from Jeff Hayes of KPMG. Various initiatives have noted directly versus indirectly impacted. How are you determining the indirectly impacted?
So for our indirectly impacted, we really dedicated to our social media. So by seeing the amount of people that follow us, but not only follow us, but also react to our pictures, send us messages, whether it's asking us questions, comment on our videos, and truly are engaged with our social media platform and are able to view whether it's our stories or our event postings. That's how we would categorize the indirectly impacted numbers.
Question from Raza Hassan of HSBC Bank. For mental health, did you explore how you translate benefits in tangible dollars? Lower health costs, higher productivity?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
I actually cannot. I'm sorry because the time just expired. So sorry about that. Judges, please join me in congratulating the team from Concordia University. Judges, we now have a couple of minutes as usual as we bring the next team. So please use this time to complete your green sheet and we'll get started in 3 minutes. And students, you may now leave the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judges, please now join me in welcoming the Enactus team from the University of Ottawa. Please open their report from the link in your email, which we also just shared in the chat, and scroll to their green sheet in your judge handbook. And you'll now have 3 minutes to review the report from the University of Ottawa. Judges, please now turn your attention to the screen as we play the video.
Every year, over 350 million tons of plastic are produced globally, with only 9% of it ever being recycled. We waste nearly $9 billion worth of plastic annually, letting it harm our planet when it could be used for something valuable. What's more, since the onset of the pandemic, the demand for single-use plastic products has grown by nearly 30%.
But aren't we supposed to have a solution to this? Isn't plastic recycling supposed to control and eliminate plastic waste? So then why is plastic that can and should be recycled piling up in our landfills and polluting our oceans?
At Enactus U Ottawa, we see problems like this as opportunities to use business principles and entrepreneurial leadership to create sustainable, positive impact. Today, we'll show you how we're taking control of the plastic waste crisis with Poly, an innovative social enterprise that allows anyone, anywhere, to take control of their community's plastic waste.
In 2017, our team wanted to tackle the plastic waste crisis, but we didn't know where to start. To better understand the problem, we spoke to community leaders, environmentalists, and experts on waste management, and learned all about the gaps in plastic recycling across Canada. And it turns out there's a lot. In cities with recycling programs, plastic is often discarded from the recycling process because of something as small as a bit of food at the bottom of a container. Other cities don't offer recycling for businesses at all. What's more, many communities around the world are too small or too remote to sustain any recycling system on their own. Knowing this, we wanted to create a solution that made recycling more accessible and adaptable to meet the needs of every community. something that was environmentally impactful but also economically viable to ensure long-term sustainability. To do this, we took the exact technology used in massive recycling plants and scaled it down to fit into a garage, a workshop, or a community center. We spent 2 years researching, testing, and refining our machines, working with industry experts to develop our own small-scale recycling systems. Last year, after 3 product iterations and plenty of mistakes, we finalized our machines. And this year, we grew our impact at home and continued scaling across the country. Our systems consist of a shredder machine that shreds down plastic into small pieces, and an injection molder that takes those pieces, melts them down, and shapes them into new products using interchangeable molds. Our machines are small enough to be accessible, but large enough to make an impact. Each one of our systems can divert up to 1.5 million water bottles worth of plastic waste annually, all while using 99% less oil, 83% less CO2, and 97% less water than if that same plastic had been made traditionally. Poly systems can recycle 5 out of the 7 common types of plastic. That's PET, HDPE, LDPE, polypropylene, and polystyrene.
Here's how it works. Poly systems are purchased, owned, and operated by local entrepreneurs, community organizations, or educational institutions. We work with our operators to build a social enterprise around their system, empowering them to create a profitable business that impacts both their community and the planet. We help them identify sources of plastic waste to collect, develop products that are relevant to their community, and design job opportunities, helping them build partnerships to make their poly systems successful. Operators can make nearly any products they can think of, from tiles to phone cases to tabletops. To make sure poly itself is sustainable, we developed 3 revenue streams. The first is earned upon the sale of each system, which is sold for $25,000 at 25% margins. We then charge a consulting fee for training and on-site installation. Finally, as part of our ongoing support package, we offer a mold production service that operators can tap into to create new products. Operators can earn an average of $16,000 of profit per year by operating our systems, meaning they can see return on investments in as little as 18 months. And for those operators that can't afford their systems out of pocket, we work alongside them to secure funding through loans, grants, or leasing to get their operations off the ground.
We knew that to be able to sell our systems to others across Canada and beyond, we needed to become experts in running them ourselves. So in late 2018, we launched our first poly system in Ottawa. To source plastic for our workshop, we built corporate partnerships with companies like Lush Cosmetics and Old Navy, who throw away every plastic hanger that comes into their store after only using it once. We also partnered with Lanark community programs to create green jobs for individuals with a disability. This year, we provided meaningful employment to 9 individuals who clean and prepare this plastic for recycling in our workshop. Now, we're proud to say that we've started scaling, bringing our state-of-the-art recycling systems to communities across North America. Last year, our second poly system was delivered to Luke in St. John, New Brunswick. Luke wanted to use his system to start his own backsplash tiling business, diverting harmful plastic waste into new tiles, providing a lightweight, customizable, and affordable option for homeowners in St. John. Only 3 weeks after receiving his system, the world shut down. With province-wide health regulations limiting Luke's production abilities, he decided to pivot to make a positive impact in new ways. So, this year, he's been giving workshops to his community on sustainable entrepreneurship using his system as an example.
Plastic's a problem, especially here in St. John, and there's going to be a massive industry that comes up around this. There's going to be a need for people to operate machines like this to make products. There has been a lot of interest in the local community. The more people that see them, the more excitement there is. Just seeing products and then telling them about, that's 100% recycled plastic. People go crazy. I've been asked to speak quite a few times, way more than I ever expected to. I have 3 different presentations booked like 6 months in advance right now. It's phenomenal.
Like many hardware companies, in 2020, we experienced significant slowdowns in production due to COVID-19. Despite this year we sold our 3rd poly system, which is ready to be delivered to Malone Middle School in New York. When Jennifer, a teacher from Malone, reached out to us, the partnership seemed perfect.
In 2019, Malone stopped accepting plastic for recycling, meaning that all of their waste ends up in the landfill. But soon, the staff and students at Malone will be using their poly system to divert this plastic waste and turn it into essential classroom items and art supplies. In the next few weeks, the students at Malone will be receiving their poly system, bringing plastic recycling back to their county. Over 500 youth at the school will soon be actively engaged in climate leadership through their customized education program. These students will be setting up their own plastic collection program for their community, creating their own micro-businesses, and actively applying the elements of sustainability.
On top of selling our third system, this year we developed and tested new product molds, experimented with new machine designs, and found new ways to create impact with our systems. We conducted virtual workshop tours and spoke with countless individuals interested in using a poly system to learn more about their needs. Through this feedback process, we discovered that many operators were looking to transform their plastic waste into material that could be sold for large-scale manufacturing. So we listened and began experimenting to develop a new third poly machine. We worked with a scientific development firm to secure a prototype extrusion machine, which takes shredded plastic, melts it down, and turns it into uniform plastic pellets, the industry standard in large-scale injection molding. While we're in the early stages of development, we expect to have our poly extruder ready by next year. This innovative addition will open up our business to a new array of operators, helping us scale our impact even more.
Since the start of the pandemic, the demand for plastics in Canada increased by nearly 30%. With entire families stuck at home, using more plastic than ever, our team knew we needed an innovative way to create sustainable, positive impact. So we decided to help build the climate leaders of tomorrow through the power of education. This year, we adapted our sustainability education program to run fully virtually. We developed 4 education modules to teach youth about climate change, the harms of plastic, the importance of living sustainably, and how to engage in social enterprise. We delivered these interactive virtual workshops to over 350 youth across North America, empowering them to adopt a sustainable lifestyle and decrease their CO2 and plastic output.
This year, through Poly, we've diverted over 30,000 water bottles worth of plastic waste, saving over 1,800 pounds of CO2, 600 pounds of oil, and over 50,000 liters of water. And we're just getting started. We're empowering communities across Canada and beyond to run systems of their own and take control of their community's plastic waste. Based on our current sales pipeline, we expect to have 7 systems operational by the end of next year.
This summer, our 4th system will be deployed to Amjanong First Nation, where the community will be using Poly to create an Indigenous-owned and operated recycling business. This fall, our 5th system is going to a high school in our hometown, where students will learn about science, technology, and sustainability through their Poly system, all while diverting their school's plastic waste. After that, our 6th system will be deployed to a Northern Environmental Education Centre in Ontario, where students and community members will be creating functional art pieces out of recycled plastic tiles. And finally, our 7th system will be deployed to a local startup in Ottawa, who will be using their system to launch a community engagement program based around plastic pollution. In total, our 7 systems will divert over 10 million water bottles worth of plastic annually, saving over 4,500 tons of CO2, over 200,000 pounds of oil, and over 20 million liters of water.
With Poly, we've developed a solution to tackle the plastic waste crisis in communities across Canada. But our team knew that we couldn't stop there. Every year, more than 8 million tons of plastic ends up in our oceans, with nearly 73% originating as textile waste. This year, our team saw an opportunity to launch a new innovative business, turning this textile waste into consumer-ready products. So we launched Shine, a sustainable eyewear company that creates glasses out of ocean textile waste. First, we built a partnership with EcoNile, who harvests textile waste like fishing nets and transforms it into regenerated nylon pellets. Then, we worked closely with glasses manufacturing experts to design and produce our first line of glasses frames out of this regenerated nylon. Our frames are sold online for $70 at a 40% profit margin, with $5 from every purchase supporting healthier oceans. Our glasses are shipped in 100% recyclable packaging, with each pair diverting the equivalent of 18 water bottles worth of plastic waste from the ocean. This year, we raised over $50,000 in funding to launch our project. In only 5 months, we've already sold over 50 pairs of glasses, generated over $4,400 in sales revenue, and diverted over 10,000 water bottles worth of plastic waste. By this time next year, we expect to continue our growth and sell over 400 pairs of glasses, generating over $25,000 in sales revenue for our team.
But that's not all we've accomplished. This year, our team of over 100 members contributed over 7,000 volunteer hours and ran 6 projects that generated real, sustainable impact.
With Project Fly, we've provided educational resources to over 250 students.
We ran 2 editions of Legacy, Canada's largest student-run entrepreneurship conference, impacting over 900 people.
With Sprout, we provided access to fresh food to over 11,000 people in Ottawa food deserts.
And with Project Navy, we've paved the way to tackle the water crisis facing Indigenous communities across Canada.
This year, we saw a global issue that was destroying our planet and designed an innovative solution that empowers communities to turn plastic into possibility.
This is Polly, and we are Enactus U Ottawa.
All right, it's now time for the question and answer period to begin. Judges, please submit your questions through the chat function at the bottom of your screen, and please send them to me again, moderator Colin Monk. I know that some people were sending them to Cody by accident. So again, questions to me, moderator Colin Monk. And while the questions start coming through, I'll have each of you two please state your school name to make sure your audio is working properly. Farah?
University of Ottawa.
Thanks, Farah. And Carter?
University of Ottawa.
Wonderful, we can hear you. So let's get started with the questions. First question from Christian Silva of Uber Canada. How do you balance selling the poly systems at full retail price versus selling them through financing or subsidized options like schools?
For sure. So we help each operator to kind of secure funding for their machines through grants or leasing options. Our team has developed a database of grants through different sources that we're able to provide to each operator to help subsidize the full cost. With that being said, each machine does cost about $25,000 for the operator, but through the grants and leasing, we're able to help them bring that cost down on their end.
Thank you. Next question from Claire Wiskin of Compass Group. How do you ensure plastics are cleaned properly for consumer use? Is the 50,000 liters of water saved, does the 50,000 liters of water saved include the water used to clean the plastic?
That's a great question. So any plastic that goes through the machine does have to be cleaned beforehand. It's cleaned with a little bit of water and a little bit of detergent. So one kind of big sink full of water will be able to clean enough plastic to operate in the machine for the day. So it doesn't have to be changed out very often. So 50,000 liters of water that is diverted through using poly does include that amount of water that is used in the kind of preparation of the plastic. And just for context, that 50,000 diverted does come from industry standards if plastic is made in traditional methods.
Thank you. Next question from Bill Bonney of Alterna Savings, who'd like to know, have you patented the process?
That's also a very great question. So we don't have a patent in the process as of now. The machine designs that we built up poly from were open source to begin with, but we did make very heavy modifications to them. So we've been running for about 3 years now, and we have been through about 3 different iterations of the designs. So in that time, we have made quite significant changes that would be hard to replicate. So while a patent is not something that we are currently pursuing, since we are about 3 years ahead in technology, it is something that we are able to do. And we have spoke to some experts who will be able to help us get there if we do decide that that's the path we want to take one day.
Thank you. And a follow-up from Bill. How do you help the purchaser consider new and innovative uses on the repurposed plastics?
For sure. So our team works with each operator, whether that's a school, a entrepreneur, or a community organization, to help them kind of figure out what their needs are. So we kind of work with them to see what the needs in their community are and kind of what their goals are and what their success metrics would be. From there, we're able to kind of help provide them with ideas of products they can make. Our team in Ottawa does use our workshop to kind of test out new molds and ideate new products. And we're able to kind of pass that knowledge on to each operator. With that being said, though, as we've talked with more operators, and we do speak with quite a few each year, we have seen that kind of the ideas for what can be made with the poly system really are kind of endless. So if an operator comes up with an idea, something they want to make, we're able to kind of work with them and help create a kind of mock-up of what that mold could look like, and then work with our experts who help us manufacture the molds to see if it would be possible. So through that process is how the kind of different products are able to be made, and that's how we come up with the ideas for them.
Next question from Terry Buckley of Connect First Credit Union. Can you help me understand the relationship with the incorporated business and Enactus?
For sure. So the incorporated business is owned by myself and Farah, but it's operated fully by the Enactus team. So we've been running within Enactus for about 3 years now and have been incorporated since 2018. With that being said, though, the business does run fully within our team, and we do not have plans to exit it out of the team. So we have actually gone through a transition of ownership between the original founders and ourselves now. And we do plan to continue that as the project does run. So we will be keeping it within the team with ownership kind of transferring between the student leaders. In that transfer process from the previous owners to Farah and myself, we did kind of learn a lot. And we have kind of prepared ourselves to do that again in the future so that the project can remain operating within our team.
Question from Raza Hassan of HSBC Bank. Annual profits of 16,000, is it based on total costs or just variable? And how scalable is the profit to sustain bigger poly machines with higher output?
For sure. So that $16,000 of profit does incorporate about $80,000 in revenue. So that's from the cost of goods, or I'm sorry, the revenue made when the goods are sold. So that includes about 60K in costs. So that's both the variable cost of your kind of materials and your kind of power usage, as well as fixed costs such as rent and a operator salary of about 40K per year. So when you incorporate all of that in, we also include a amortization rate over the course of about 5 years, which we do think is a bit conservative, but we kind of use that to create that $16,000 of profit number. In terms of growth, those numbers are based off of what we've experienced running a system in Ottawa ourselves, kind of extrapolated over a full year period. So that's kind of what we see running a machine for about 4 or 5 days per week. If you want to kind of grow and then increase your profit, you would be able to kind of introduce more systems into your own operation. I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, so unfortunately I can't say what that growth would look like, but it is something that we have kind of ideated before and we would like to look into in the future.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Sarah Atkins Consulting. With Shine, how did you land on eyeglass production? And what's your main point of difference given your $70 price point?
For sure. So the eyeglass production was something that we just kind of thought was a cool idea, to be completely honest. A lot of our team kind of wears glasses, and we wanted to find a way to create a consumer product that would be environmentally friendly while also stylish. So eyeglasses kind of seemed like the kind of perfect point to land on there. Would you be able to repeat the rest of the question?
Sure. It was just so, what's your main point of difference given your $70 price point?
For sure. So the main point of differentiation for us is definitely that the glasses are made out of regenerated nylon. So this is something that a lot of glasses frames don't necessarily have. Through this feature, they are very environmentally friendly, and $5 from each purchase does go towards an initiative to support healthy oceans. So that's kind of what sets us apart from other eyeglass frames. With that being said, the $70 price point is very competitive. We have conducted a very extensive amount of market research to look at both sustainable eyewear companies in other parts of the world, as well as just general eyewear companies in Canada. And we do find that we fit in about the middle range. So it is definitely in line with other frames.
Question of Jeff Hayes of KPMG. You mentioned this has been developed over 2+ years. Can you please clarify what was done in this last year versus prior years?
Definitely. So this year, I think our biggest accomplishment was definitely selling a system to Malone Middle School. So we did spend the year kind of preparing the machine for them to be delivered. On top of that, we did expand our pipeline. So we are expecting in about the next year to have 7 systems operational. We also did use the time at the start of the pandemic. So back pretty much this time last year, when our hardware and our production was shut down for a little bit, we did focus a lot of time on really developing our internal processes as well as our after-sales support. So when our manufacturing did return to normal levels, which did happen in about January of this year, we were able to kind of have everything in place so we can kind of hit the ground running and really get our growth started. On top of that, this year, we did work on developing some new molds. We developed a phone case mold, a flower pot mold, as well as a mold for a bunch of different tile shapes. And we're working on a couple molds for different school supplies right now as well. We did begin developing our new machine this year, so that would be the extruder. We're in the early stages of development for this, but it will be introduced to our system. We're hoping for within the next year or so. On top of that, we educated 350 youth through our education program. We employed 9 individuals through the Lanark Community Program, who were able to help us kind of prepare the 40,000 water bottles in total worth of plastic waste that we were able to divert this year.
Thank you. Next question from Nick Lazik of Bell. What support do you have to help poly operators find sources of plastic, given that municipally run recycling facilities aren't likely to be good sources for this material?
For sure. So we have a couple sources that we've worked with ourselves. So a couple corporate sources such as Lush and Old Navy. So through these relationships, we're able to kind of provide our operators with the same connections so they can receive a consistent, stable source of plastic. On top of that, we have run multiple different kind of community pickup programs, and we have kind of prepared documentation and ways to kind of train our operators to do the same. So we have seen a lot of operators that kind of have ideas for plastic sources already. So whether that's through kind of stores that they found in their community.
Has now expired. Sorry to interrupt. Your time has expired. Judges, please join me in congratulating the team from the University of Ottawa, the final team of today. Students, Carter and Farah, thanks for joining. You can now leave the meeting. And I'm just confirming that our live streaming has stopped, and I will join back. Okay, judges, that was our final presentation of the day. So I'm back here again. Thank you so much. So please complete your final individual team evaluation form and scroll to the Q